Good morning. Here, please. Cooperate. Stay behind the ear, okay? You too. Stay behind the ear. That's all I ask. Good morning. Sativa today. How did you know? How did you guess? Yes. I'm poofing a little sativa today. Yeah. Good morning. Good morning. Just having a solidarity convo with your mom. That's cool. Nothing on the agenda today. Just waking up, enjoying a little bit of the outdoors. Looks like the rain that I've had here for the last 3 or 4 days is finally gonna take a little break maybe today. It might start raining a little later. It wasn't that long ago that it was still raining, but we've got a little break in it now. Good morning, Mountain Lord. Good morning. I'm Zeus now. Neat. Cool. What does that mean I get to do? Shoot lightning bolts. Fuck gods and goddesses. Hello, man roach. Allow me to introduce myself. I'm a man of wealth and taste. Too early for this shit? I mean, maybe for you. Not for me. This is, I actually got up 2 hours ago because I fell asleep at some ungodly early hour last night. I'm turning into a grandpa. Slowly but surely morphing myself into an early to bed, early to rise makes a man healthy, wealthy, and wise type of situation. I got up this morning and finished off the research on the episode that we'll be doing today. It's a polisode. I finished all that up, kind of got everything in order for that. And then I came out here to have my cup of coffee. Live patron episode? No, you guys will get a patron episode. We're just filming an episode today that you guys probably won't see for a few weeks, but you'll get your episode for tonight. I'm not sure what it is, to be honest with you. I go to sleep early because I love having a bowl during sunrise. That is really nice. I will tell you, like coming out here in the mornings, especially on a morning like this where it's not windy. Like yesterday morning, it was super windy and cold. Today it's cold, but the wind has died down significantly. It's just a little bitty breeze now. But yeah, it's redacted o'clock, Alexander. Redacted o'clock as always. Oh. How is your work schedule? Is it still multiple episodes a day? Typically, what we've been doing is a grease trap, which is basically the length of an episode and then an episode per day, so that we build up a little bank of those. Once we've got a easily refillable backlog of grease traps, we don't want to go too far ahead with those because they tend to be topical. So we want to get a couple of weeks of grease traps in the bank, and then we're gonna start double filming episodes, I think, until we've got ourselves back to the kind of stockpile that we had before. And then we're going to switch gears and go into a more of like a maintenance filming schedule for DFF so that we can start filming other things. That is the plan as it stands right now. We're moving along on that plan. Good morning. I have a cup of Joe in the morning too. I don't really play chess. No, I know how. I know the rules. I learned the rules when I was little. My dad taught me how to play chess, and I can pick up and play a little bit, but I'm not great. It's nice because with the grease traps, you can get your banter when you want it, and your red meat when you want it. More like a selected experience. Well, there you go. It's not yet 10 a.m. for me. Daily alcohol reserves exhausted. Must sleep now. Well wishes and prayers of greatness towards the leader, Paul. Well, there you go. Dude, the frash crisis in China. Oh man, just the absurdity of the world got to me during the last grease trap, and by the end of it, I was not quite there. I got a boogie. Man, I just need to bring fucking tissues out here every time. You guys are just boogered fucking monitors. Here we go. You guys are fucking hall monitors for my nose, man. There's nothing I can do. I try. I got them sniffles. Oh, Jesus. Still kind of bugged, huh? All right, you guys are going to have to see the grossness then, because I'm going to have to go in on this one. Hey, look at that. Clean for now. Had to go in on that one. Had to take that one inside. Everybody gets a booger, you know. Turned 21 recently. What do you like to drink? Nowadays, like, if I'm gonna drink anything, I'll probably have a beer or two. I'm a total fucking non-drinker now. I'm like a every once in a while with dinner I'll have a beer type of drinker now. When I was your age, whatever I could get my hands on was what I liked to drink. I guess my preferred alcohol is tequila. Or at least it was back then. I will very rarely, if ever, go near the stuff now. But tequila, I like that. I like that, Holmes. Yeah, I can't hang like that anymore. I don't feel good when I drink. It's just not. It's no bueno. I'm not excited to drink. Alcohol gets boring quick. For some people it never does. Alcohol makes me feel dehydrated. I'd rather just drink water. Good morning, Paul. How are you today? Okay. I feel a little odd, to be honest with you. Never know quite how much to share. I guess I could share like some basic information. I started on a new medication yesterday for my mental health, trying out some different stuff according to my doctor recommendations. And I don't know, it makes me feel a little strange. Yeah, from the new doctor, yeah. Stuff equals heroin. No. Can feel it already. A little bit, yeah. I've been on these types of medications before, and I can feel the front edge of them very, very easily. Why did your last doctor cut your meds by half? Because he decided that I didn't need to be on them or whatever the fuck. Like he sat down and looked at them, and he asked me why I was taking the drug, and I told him I have, panic attacks and shit. And that when I got on the drug, I was having upwards of 3 panic attacks in a day, sometimes at least one a day. And he said something to me like, you can't rely on every crutch. And he just kind of like said, I'll give you a refill on this, but only for half of what you've been taking. And I was like, okay. So I spent like a good month at half a dose, and now I'm back on the correct dose of that medication, and the doctor that put me on that wanted to try me on another medication as well, so I'm taking that. Did you hit the guy between the eyes for being stupid? No, because I'd be in jail if I did that, probably. Yeah, crutch. Yeah. It's like you can't use, I think that's what he said to me. He was like, you can't use every crutch. You can't use everything as a crutch, or you can't use every crutch, or whatever the fuck. And I was like, what? Crutch? Okay. So what am I supposed to do? Whatever. You wouldn't say that to an amputee. I mean, maybe this doctor would. Learn to hop. I'd like to get a prosthetic, doc. No. You need to learn to hop. Okay, you can't rely on the crutch of a prosthetic, bro. Hop around on one fucking leg. Yeah, I don't have that doctor anymore. I no longer see that doctor. You know what I mean? When you go to a new area and you're trying to find a doctor, one of the truths of American healthcare is you might have to shop around a little bit to find a doctor that'll actually fucking listen to you. Because this doctor wasn't even interested in talking to me. It's lucky for me that I brought labs from my old doctor, because I don't even think he cared if I was healthy. Like, it was my first appointment with him. I brought my labs, and he wasn't even going to look them over. They were sitting on his desk, and I was like, hey, I brought my labs, blood work that I had done a couple months ago, and yada yada, and he looked all that over. I don't think he was going to order any of that. Yeah, I don't think he cared. So I got to find somehow and see, at least a general practitioner type of doctor that I can go to that isn't going to stand in the way of me being better and will actually listen to what's wrong with me. Because I'll be honest with you, neither of the fucking doctors that I've gone to since moving have really listened to what the fuck is wrong with me. They don't seem to care. Was he a family medic? Just like a general practitioner, internist kind of doctor was the first one that I went to. The second one I went to was a psychiatrist. halved my medication, and offered nothing in place. Offered no alternative, didn't switch it to a different medication, didn't give me any advice on what I might face when cutting a medication like I'm on in half. And so I spent a month, after months and months and months of being properly medicated and having very infrequent panic attacks, I spent a month having every other day panic attacks. Luckily, I've gotten better at mitigating them, and I know some fucking techniques to not make them as bad now, but he was just like, yeah, go ahead and have a month with panic attacks and shit. Have that come back into your life after being rid of it for 6 or 8 months. What? Okay. Thanks, Doc. Any advice on how to help somebody currently having a panic attack? I do breathing exercises. A lot of times what happens when people have panic attacks is they kind of like hyperventilate without noticing it. Your breathing becomes rapid and shallow, and your blood gets like basically over oxygenated, and it puts your system into a kind of like a hyper nervous state, hyper aware state. And so what you do is you need to kind of force more carbon dioxide into your bloodstream. And you do that by taking a long, deep breath, holding it for about 10 seconds, exhaling it over the course of about 5 or 6 seconds for as long as you can, and then taking another long, deep breath, holding it for 10 seconds. I do that in concert with flexing certain parts of my body, like my hands. I'll squeeze my hands while I'm holding my breath. So I'll take the deep breath in, fill my lungs with it, hold it for 10 seconds while I'm squeezing my hands. Not as hard as I can, but hard enough to really feel the pressure. And then when I let the breath out, I relax my hands. And I'll do about 3 or 4 cycles of that. And typically that will help to mitigate the feeling of a rising panic attack if I can catch the front edge of it. It isn't always successful, but it is one of the tools that I have that does work for me. One time I found a note from an ex-girlfriend that she had left for me when we were together that I had never read. I simply stopped breathing for like a minute. Definitely calmed me down. Yeah, I guess so. I mean, yeah, it works, not for everybody. I'm not saying it's like some kind of cure-all, but it has worked for me. It's helped me to regulate the feeling of a panic attack coming on. If I can get in front of it. I have to do that kind of method sometimes when I'm filming a show. Typically not when I'm properly medicated, but when I'm improperly medicated, like I have been for the last month, I'll have to, pretty often cut my fucking camera feed, stand up, and start doing my breathing exercises and shit. Because it'll just, it'll start happening. I also, and this is a very strange thing that I didn't learn about until about 1.5 years or 2 years ago. I have light triggered panic disorders. I can't remember what it's called, photosensitive panic disorder or something like that, where having a certain type of light in my face or in my eyes in the wrong way for too long will cause me to panic. Not flashing lights, just like it typically happens with unnatural light. Sunlight typically doesn't trigger it, but unnatural, like fluorescent lights or LED light like I have to use to light myself for the show, being exposed to that for a long enough period of time can trigger a panic event in me. And it's something that I didn't even know existed until I started looking it up. At the front edge of when my panic attacks started really coming during the show, I went and started looking into it, and I found this photosensitivity thing that's apparently way more common than anybody would expect it is. My eyes are light sensitive anyway, and so that probably plays a role. You correlate these panic events to your PTSD, not directly in my mind. And I was having them prior to the event that triggered the PTSD. So PTSD likely exacerbated my panic attacks, but was not the cause of them. I was having panic attack events well before the event that triggered my PTSD. Can you get special lenses that filter out that light? So there are those like blue blocker type of lenses that you can get. I've had limited success with those, though, with the types of light that I'm talking about. I can typically avoid the type of light that I'm talking about, and I do. Like if you guys were to be like a ghost observer in my life, right? You would find that I very rarely am in a room with the lights on. Unless I've got people over or whatever, or if I'm cooking, something that needs a lot of light, I'll turn the light on in the room. But I actually prefer to walk into a completely dark room or a room that's just lit by ambient sunlight in the day. And so my house stays really dark pretty much all the time. Just because of how I am, just because of how sensitive I am to that kind of unnatural light shit. And when I'm in an environment where there's a lot of that light for a long time, I have to step out of it and let my eyes, I don't know what it is, let my body de-adjust to it or whatever the fuck. You remember what the name was? I don't remember what the fucking... Are you talking about like the light sensitivity thing? It was photosensitivity, blah, 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 blah. I have general high light sensitivity anyway. My eyes are very slow to adjust to changes in the light. So if I'm in a darker environment and then I walk outside into the sun, I get what's called snow blindness. If there's like a sidewalk or something that's reflecting a lot of light, like if the sun is bouncing a lot of light off of the ground, my eyes will just I'll start crying. Like my eyes will start watering and stinging to the point where I can't. And it takes like sometimes a minute or 2 minutes for my eyes to adjust to that. And people that have my color eye, blue, one of the reasons why blue eyes are a genetic existence is because of snow blindness. So blue eyes are supposed to be better at, not, I guess, absorbing that amount of light or whatever the fuck. And mine just don't work that way. My eyes have the same work ethic as the sperm. I have decent vision, like more than decent vision. I've got great distance vision. My eyes were tested in my 20s at 2010, which is like better than 2020 vision. 2010 vision is like Army sniper vision. It's like, really, really, really good distance vision. but not great light handling, I guess. Do you think that anything will change now that the GameStop thing is happening? Yes. Yes. There will be legislation put in place to protect hedge funds from this type of thing and to limit trades on quote unquote irregular stocks or whatever the fuck. They'll figure out a way to do it, and it'll be something you can't do in a month. No, I didn't try my hand at it, no. I don't really do the gambling thing. I mean, I support it. I'm all for it, but I don't gamble my money. Things will get worse for the little guy and better for the big hedge funds. Probably so, yeah. Free market for me, but not for thee. That's what it is. The market is free as fuck when you're talking about millionaires and billionaires operating within it. But if the average Joe wants to do it, not a free market at all. Build a Bead Workshop stock is called BBW. I see. Or Build a Bear. I think he meant Build a Bear. Good for you. Good for you. No, I can't really do a big analysis, and I can't really sit here and bloviate for hours and hours on the stonks shit because I don't really understand what's going on. I have a cursory understanding of what's going on, but I have a feeling that so do you, you know? So I didn't participate. I don't understand markets. I don't understand the stock market. I don't play it. I don't, you know. I have some basic college savings for my kids in the stock market, but that's it. Yeah. I mean, somebody brought up yesterday when we were talking about this, and I said I had no money in the stock market. They were like, you don't have like an old IRA or something from an old job? And I was like, well, yeah, I do. I've got an IRA from Starbucks, and like a retirement plan that I paid into for the school district as well. And I'm sure that that money is tied up in some way, shape, or form to the stock market. But I don't know. What they mean by free is that they're protected from their losses and their competition. Yeah. No, agreed. That seems to be the definition of a free market. They're free from any kind of interference from average people. I'm free to make money on everybody else's suffering. Corporations, companies excluding whoever they want is the free market. Yeah, of course. Couldn't be more free than that. It don't get more free than that, folks. Stonks. No, I'm a big supporter of, you stonk kids doing whatever it is you're doing, but, I don't know enough about it to know what to do, so I just didn't. Oh. But stayed away from COVID so far. As far as I know, I have. There's a really good chance that I've had it and just not known. A lot of people get it and have, like I have allergies. Like, for example, I'm about to sneeze right now. Hold on. Don't do this to me. It's hanging there. Okay, it's gonna. God damn you, sneeze. Are you gonna happen or not? I feel you in there. I feel like you want to happen. Cucked by a sneeze yet again. You guys hear me sniffling and sneezing and coughing and stuff out here. I have horrible post-nasal drip from my allergies and shit. And it gives me a kind of a constant, like, on top of that being a smoker, You know, you get the phlegm and shit. So there's a good chance that I've already had COVID and just, you know, was one of the people that it had a mild case or an asymptomatic case. Or I just mistook whatever the COVID symptoms were for my normal fucking congestion and allergies and sniffles and shit. It's also cold outside. That doesn't help, yeah. Doesn't help with a sniffly nose. Oh, man. Sorry about that, guys. I know it's gross to watch somebody blow their fucking nose, but what do you want me to do? I gotta fucking do it. You're still in Louisiana? Fuck no. Bowl time. Moon rocks or Keef? Ooh, hit the moon rocks up, boy. I haven't had no moon rocks in a hot minute. Hit them moon rocks up, boy. What am I doing? I already have one of these lit. Or half smoked and put out. Time for the Where's Paul meme. Dun 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 dun. Where in the world is Paul's ego? Yeah, roll up that blunt. I really don't. I need to make another order. I'm kind of low on flour right now, so I can't really join you in the actual combustion of weed. But I've got this bad boy. Got a couple of these left. I'm puffing away on these, and they do the job. Where in the world is Paul's ego? Paul mentioned by accident last week that he was in Arizona. God damn it. I revealed myself. Am I in Arizona? Great stream yesterday. Well, thank you. It was a fun one, I think. Gotta love these messages of people trying to figure it out. I love it too. It's become kind of a meme and it's cute. I mean, I don't want the whole chat to be nothing but like people guessing where I'm at, but the fact that there are like multiple people out there who quote unquote have it figured out. Like I'll get DMs on Twitter and shit from people that are like, "Hey Paul, I just wanted to let you know that you accidentally slipped up and said that you're in Wisconsin the other day. You know, you might want to edit out this part of your video if you want to keep it secret. I won't tell anybody, bro." I'm like, Paul, did you realize that your happiness correlates to the last time you've searched for Waldo? No, dude, I'm not trying to be rude when I say this, but where you are to me, who cares? Even though you said you would tell me, that's up to you. Yeah, that's true. I did say I would tell you. I haven't yet, though. But yeah, I mean, you know, it's one of those things. I think it's just fun for people to speculate and guess. It'd be a lot more fun than if I told you guys where I was, you know. Then there would be no game. But as it stands right now, I'm planning on moving quite a bit in the next 2 to 3 years of my life. And so it'll be a fun game that I'll get to continue. Where's Paul now? New York City, yeah. Obviously New York City. I mean, you can hear the hustle and the bustle of the city. Will you tell us where you were in these videos after you move? Ooh, that's a good question. Maybe. We'll see. Maybe. On one hand, it'd be fun to like let you guys know where I was the whole time and let the people that guessed right feel vindicated. And on the other hand, it would be fun to not remove a state from the pool of possibilities. You know what I mean? Because if I tell you what state I'm in now, and then I tell you guys I'm moved out of a state, then, you know, suddenly I've narrowed the guess to 49 states. A state, huh? Move like a town over and just say you moved out of state. I was playing, like, that would have been a funny thing if I just moved within Louisiana. Like, if I was just, like, down the road from where I used to live. Where in the world is Palsy? Go. Scotty said I'm in Arizona. Scotty also said I'm in Wisconsin. He was the first one to actually throw the name of a state out, and the name of the state he threw out was Wisconsin. Or Wyoming. I think it was Wyoming. Never mind. Yeah, it was Wyoming. Whatever. I live in a space station. All right, no more guesses. Stop your guesses, dipshits. I can't do much with just you guys slamming a bunch of fucking state guesses in the chat. That's enough. That's enough. No more guesses. You're going to get timed out if you keep on guessing. Paul just went to the dimension of blah, 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 whatever. It's not a guess if it's right. Yeah, it is. Because it's only right if you know it's right. You see? It's only right if I tell you it's right, or if you can somehow prove beyond a shadow of a doubt that indeed it's correct. I look sleepy? I don't feel very sleepy. I feel okay. Yeah, I like Depeche Mode. My mom was a big fan of Depeche Mode, and she used to play like Rio and Hungry Like the Wolf a lot. Another Depeche Mode-esque band that not a lot of people talk about that I really like from the 80s is In Excess. They got a couple of really good songs. I Need You Tonight, Devil Inside. Those are probably their most popular songs. But yeah, I like In Excess a lot. I actually think I like I Need You Tonight better than I like anything from Depeche Mode. Oh, Hungry Like the Wolf is Duran Duran. Depeche, fuck. Okay, so Depeche Mode does Rio then, right? Yeah, I get them mixed up. I get Duran Duran and Depeche Mode mixed up. Maybe I shouldn't. Personal Jesus. Okay, yeah, got it. So Rio is Depeche Mode. Or is Personal Jesus Depeche Mode? Who fucking cares? They're the same band. I like In Excess better. Just listen to In Excess. So slide over here and give me a moment. Your lips are so raw. I've got to let you know. I've got to let you know. You're one of my kind. Dun, 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 dun. Dun, 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 dun. I need you tonight. Do, do, do. 'Cause I'm not sleeping. Something about you, girl, makes me sweat. Mm-mm-mm. Good shit. What you gonna say? Can't speak at all. What you gonna do? Gonna live my life. Slide over here. You spy a booger again? God damn it. God damn it. Another booger. You're one of my kind. Who sings Rio? Is that Depeche Mode or Duran Duran? Her name is Rio and she dances on the sand. Who sings that? Is that Depeche Mode? Or is that Duran Duran? Okay. Cleared up. Shave your beard on the stream. No! Shave your back on the stream. There's not much back there to shave, but you know, that's more likely than me shaving my beard on the stream. Chat having an off day today? I guess so, man. Chat feels like an engine that keeps trying to get started. Like it, you ever had an old ass car and it'll start and like, and you're like, fuck. You're like pumping on the gas and you flood the engine and then it won't start at all till you wait. You're like, fuck. That's what chat's like today. Pull starting a cold lawnmower, yeah. Yeah. It's the morning crew. We're all sleepy and stupid. Nah, man. The morning crew is typically, you know, some bright-eyed and bushy-tailed folks. That's you trying to drive a stick. Knob. You gotta be able to drive a stick, man. I love driving stick, but the truth of the matter is that it makes no sense for me to have two vehicles. Amelia can't drive a stick. In fact, I've never been with another person that could drive a stick. So I've only gotten to have one or two cars in my life that, actually two that were manual. But if I had my way, every car that I got would be a manual transmission. I love a stick. Yeah, the Tempo was a 5-speed. It was a Ford Tempo 5-speed, so I learned on a stick. That was my first car. And then my Scion XB was a stick. It's actually a pretty good anti-theft device if you think about it, having a manual transmission. It's like, how many thieves out there know how to fucking get in a stick and drive it away? You know what I mean? What is it about a stick you love so much? I like being in control of the car. Like I like the sense of control that it gives you in a car. It's so much easier to drive a stick if you live in a hilly area like I do now. But if you're in an area where you're kind of doing this up and down thing, driving a stick is such a fucking pleasure. I just like it. I like being able to downshift at will for an extra burst of speed. I like being able to manage my RPMs. I like being able to put it in a gear and coast, down a hill and shit. And if you've ever driven a stick shift, you can kind of feel the car's internal workings and the road underneath you through the stick shift. Not like, but you can feel the vibration of the motor and you can feel the gear you're in and No, there's something very tactile about it. I like it. Yeah. Dude, I'm already a really smooth driver. I'm really good at, like, never causing a passenger to do this at a stop sign. You know what I mean? You never feel that, like, psh, I coast to the stop sign very slowly and stop and then slowly accelerate out of it. Like, I'm a good smooth driver, but when I'm in a stick shift, ultra smooth driver. I've been told I drive like a grandma who still has control of all her senses. Dude, I drive. I'm not a super aggressive driver. I like stick shifts because they allow you to be aggressive if you need to. They allow you to make aggressive moves, more responsively than automatics do. But I'm a very careful driver. I've been involved in too many car accidents in my life, so I drive defensively. I've driven dirt bikes and shit, so like learning how to drive a motorcycle would be relatively simple for me. I've been on dirt bikes before. I know how to ride those, so but I just have no interest in them. Driving a car without a clutch makes me super uncomfortable. It feels weird when you're used to driving that way. You'd be a cool biker type. Yeah, it just ain't me though, dude. I can't hang with it. I don't. I think I'd be fine on it. I just have no desire to do it. It's like a more dangerous version of something I already see as dangerous. So driving is like meditation for you. Me too. Um, when I moved here to the bunker, I drove for 2 days. And I was about 12 to 13 hours of road time per day. And it's like a Zen-like place that I get to. It's like all of the problems of the world melt from my mind, and my focus is singularly on the piloting of that vehicle, and on a few other things like the song that's playing or something. It's like a very focusing thing for me. It makes me a good long haul driver. Like if there's ever a time where you need to drive across the country or whatever the fuck, I'm the guy you want to do it. I'm good at it. I don't fall asleep while driving. If I start to feel that coming on, I never allow myself to get to the point where I'm impaired. I pull over and rest. But typically that doesn't happen to me. My body is in a very regulated state when I'm driving, and it's cool. The Lord of Ducks has blessed us with his quacking presence this morning. When I drive long haul, I'll throw on audiobooks to get that mental visualization that I forget the road. That's not good. You shouldn't do that. I never forget the road when I'm driving. The road becomes my world when I'm driving. The road and my position on it and the things surrounding it become my world. And music becomes the background noise of that world, along with the thump, the thump, the thump of your tires going over the freeway and shit. It's a very Zen-like thing. You are the road, and the road is thee. Paul's on a power trip? Not really. Just letting you know. I know you hate doing flash fried, Paul, but it seems like you have more of a grasp of how much the world is burning compared to the other two. That's why I don't like it. I don't know. It's not that I don't like it. I actually do enjoy flash fried from time to time, but mostly for the yucks, you know, mostly for the laughs. I like it because it gives me a chance to laugh at how absurd things are. I don't like it for the fact that I know that people are looking to us for commentary, like serious commentary about shit that's going on. And I'm not real interested in trying to be that type of dude. So, and I really don't like the news. I limit my diet of news. Yeah, Scotty, I think, and TJ both have a more well-rounded ability to give serious commentary on news events than I do. My mind tends to wander a lot, and it makes me not very good at sticking to that shit. If I get bored with a news story, then my mind immediately starts thinking of jokes to make about said news story. And sometimes those jokes are really funny, and those are the moments I think on Flash Fried where I shine. But other times I feel like I'm just sitting there unable to think of anything funny or interesting about a story, or bored with the story, or wishing that I didn't have to sit and listen to the story, or, you know, trying to hunt for that pocket of funny and just not finding it. When rolling a blunt, do you use a purpose-made blunt wraps or crack a swisher open? If I'm gonna roll a blunt, I'm gonna attempt the swisher crack. Now, I'm not the best blunt roller in the world. I'm definitely not the dude you want to pass the weed tray to hand roll a joint or hand roll a blunt. I can do it, but I'm not great at it. I never got good at it. I don't have the manual dexterity, and I never got it down pat. So I'm not a great blunt roller, but if I'm gonna sit down and roll a blunt, I'm gonna crack a swisher. You know what I mean? When it comes to J's, lately I've taken, when I do have a J, which is rare nowadays, but I've taken to packing those raw cones. Like, I get those raw cones or whatever, and I'll just load those up. There's a technique to that shit too. You can't just like cram the weed down there, then you get like a joint that's rolled too tight. You gotta pack it semi-loosely in there, but I've got that down really good. I can pack a good raw cone joint. Yeah, I've got a weed tray. I've got from a company called Trap Trays out of Seattle. I got it when I lived in Bellevue. A good packed cone is always a treat. Yeah. Yeah, you got to know how to do them. Like, I've seen people that don't know how to roll one of those joints. Like, they'll pass me a joint and I'll suck on it, and I'll immediately know that this thing is not gonna hit right. It's just gonna be a fucking stiff draw, and it's gonna be clogged by the end of it. Like, you have to pack the first. Like, here's the key. Teach you how to pack a raw cone right now. I can't give you a visual aid because I don't have any, but sprinkle in your first pinch or two of weed, and you want to pack that down really tight, because part of the issues that a raw cone can develop is they get floppy. You don't want that. You want to pack that first pinch or two of weed real tight down in the bottom of the raw cone, and then the rest of it very loosely. Sprinkle some in, tamp it down with the little tool, sprinkle some in, tamp it down with the little cardboard tube tool, sprinkle some in. You do that till you're at your tip, and then you twist it off and you're done. You don't want to overpack. If you tightly pack your weed in there, you're gonna get a joint that just doesn't breathe. Yeah, it's got to have airflow through it. Yeah, I mean, I learned to hand roll a joint back in the day before cones were a common thing that you could get, but my joints are not the best. I don't roll very evenly smoking joints. I have friends that are way more talented. My stepdad can roll a fucking great J, but I'm terrible at it. But yeah, I'm a cone master. You know who taught me the cones was Chelsea, of all people. Chelsea was the ninja wizard that taught me how to properly pack a cone. Whoa. Holy shit. The wind has picked up a little bit now that the sun's up. It's not like blowing like it was yesterday, but it's enough to make me fucking sit here and get cold. Hi. You're out west, so since the sun just came up, the sun just came out. It's been cloudy here, and the sun was behind a cloud. And now that it's out, it's blowing away some of these clouds, and the wind has picked up a little bit. The sun has been up for a hot minute. Don't you make your assumptions about where I am. Got the raw automatic joint roller, and it's almost instant. Perfect size J's if you don't have. Yeah, I'll try. I might get myself one of those. I'm just not. I don't smoke J's all that often. Like my preferred method of smoking is just the little hand pipe, and absent that, a nice tall bong. Like that's something that once I land in a place that I'm gonna stay for a long time, I'll invest in again. Having a bong and traveling around with it is just something that I don't want to deal with. But once I land in a place where I want to stay, I'll get myself a nice glass piece, and that'll be nice. In the interim, I might get myself a little standing like plastic bong or something. But those are my preferred ways of smoking if I'm going to combust. A J is like, they're nice, but you go through weed pretty fast if you're smoking J's. Paul, as a person with autism, I get really bothered with the unharmonious gray planks in the background. Sorry about that, bro. I'm an unharmonious presence, so it works. Have you used a gas mask bong? No, I have not. I have not used a gas mask bong. I've smoked on some pretty, like, growing up in the 90s before, like, yeah, you could go get a bong and stuff in the 90s at a head shop or a little pipe or whatever, but a lot of stoners made their own smoking devices back in the day. And the two that I remember loving the most, I had this friend, Morgan, who does the singing for the songs that I use when I do desktop streams. He was in Apple Nasty with me. And his dad was like an old school stoner. And he had a couple of fucking pieces that he made himself. One of them was made out of a mason jar, and it was called the Revolver. And it was dope as fuck. So it was a mason jar bong. He had like a metal tube down in it, a piece of cork to seal it. And the bowls that you hit were on a rotating piece of wood that had 8 chambers that you could pack with weed. And the one that was over the hole, it would click. Each bowl would click into place, and once it was clicked into place, you could hit it. And his trick was he would load up all 8 chambers of the Revolver and clear them all. Click. Click. You know what I mean? He'd take this giant rip. It was dope. Totally homemade fucking bong, dude. But it was a good like party bong because you could pass it around, and if you ended up getting the ass end of a bowl or something, all you had to do was just click it and go to the next bowl, and you got greens. You know what I mean? So if you got a dusted bowl passed to you, then you click. You know, you could pass that thing around a room of 2 or 3 people 5 or 6 or 7 times before you had to repack it, and by that time everybody's good and stoned anyway. So what's the point? You know, pretty dope. He was way ahead of his time. Yeah. He also built a hookah out of an old pottery thing that he had. He had this vase, this really like lacquered ceramic vase. Excuse me. In omni patris et filii et spiritus sancti. Yeah, he had this vase that he did the same thing with. He cut a big piece of corked the top with it, and made the internals out of metal pipe, and he made a hookah out of it with a big kind of bowl in the center of it that you would pack a bunch of weed in, torch it, and you and up to 4 people. We used to hit it 2 or 3 at a time. You'd be sitting there, and it was just a hose with a clamp on it, like one of those little pinch release clamps. And so you'd put the hose in your mouth, and then everybody would start slowly drawing as you toasted the bowl, and then you could sit there and hookah a big fat bowl, the 3 of you together, just kind of sitting in the middle of the table. Yeah, those were cool. Those were cool, like little homemade stoner devices that don't really have to exist anymore because you can just get it. Like the other homemade shit that I remember using one time was I went to a party at a cousin's house, and they were hitting a gravity bong out of this sunken tub. They had one of those, like the house that the party was at had one of those built-in tubs that's like a little deeper. It's almost like a tiny swimming pool inside your house, if you know what I'm saying. Like you step down into it, and they made a gravity bong in that sunken tub out of a jug with the bottom cut out of it. You know those big water jugs? Those big, like, I don't know how many gallons they hold, but they're in like doctor's offices and shit where you serve yourself in the little paper cups, those big water jugs. So they took one of those and they cut the bottom out of it and rigged it up and made a gravity bong out of it, where you would fucking whatever, dude. We had the coolest gravity bong when I was on DP. We had one that was actually made specifically to be a gravity bong. It had a glass sheath and then like a bottle that was specifically made for it. Perfect fucking gravity bong. Harsh if you do it fucking too fast or whatever. But once again, that was kind of like the way that it was done back in the day. Like big bong rips, big gravity bong rips. That's how people got stoned back in the day. Because we weren't dealing with the quality of weed either that you can get in most places now. So you had a shotgun a lot of fucking weed, I guess. Oh man, son, could you not, son? I feel like a vampire. I missed a chat. Oh shit, there we go. In a legal state, but as someone who has only tried weed a couple of times, there's too many different things to try. I wouldn't know where to start. I mean, you don't have to, like, don't be like crazy intimidated by it. It's just weed. Like, I would recommend you just get a normal little pipe and some bud that sounds good. Like, why complicate things? Is smoking out of cans safe? I don't know if it's safe or not, but I used to do it a lot. Like, that was the ready-made Insta pipe back in the day. You dent in the side of the can, you poke some holes in it with a pin, make a little bowl, poke a hole in the side of it for the carb, and put your weed in there and use your fucking can. You know what I mean? It's the go-to. I mean, yeah, there's all kinds of like paint and shit that's on the outside of aluminum, and aluminum itself breaks down and shit at high heat. So, I don't know. But yeah, a beer can or a Coke can or whatever you had on hand becomes your pipe, That advice is overrated, is what it is. Wasn't really advice. Sun. Some shitty ass sun's gonna be standing right in my fucking face all day. Let me just move over here where there's no sun. Now what? Now what are you gonna do? Can't move to the other side of the sky, can you, son? In the battle of man versus sun, man is victorious. I wish there was a way for... Yeah, there is a way. I'll just do this. Look at this. I can do that and kind of have a little sun on me. Whoa, I'm sitting a little lower now, too. That might help with the boogers. Hey, there we go. I'm in a different chair, though. I don't know if I'm going to like this chair. That's why I don't move. Now I'm realizing, because this chair sucks. So I'll have to bring my nice Biker Dave rocking chair over here in a minute. Let's move this over. There we go. That should help. Is there anything you're anticipating this year? Not really. Sunshine on my shoulders makes me happy. What am I going to do, a fart for the boys? One of these days when I've got a fart. If I've got a fart on deck the next time and somebody calls for it, I will. But every time somebody calls for a fart, I don't have one on deck. I can't force a fart, I'm not a super farty guy. I do fart. Don't get me wrong, but you got to catch me when I've got a fart brewing, When am I going to do the ping pong joke stream? I don't know, man. I don't know. I don't know if you guys have got time for the ping pong ball joke. That's the problem, is like that joke can take 3 hours or more to tell. Farts are like love. If you have to force it, it's probably crap. The joke should be its own stream. It would be a crazy fucking stream. I'm telling you, I've only told that joke in its full capacity one time in my entire life. I've told people abridged versions of that joke so that they can, but it's not the real joke. You have to experience the real joke. And I've experienced the real joke being told to me only once by my friend Kevin, who, as far as I know, invented the joke. I don't think he heard it from anybody. And the joke is very specific. It has a very specific way it has to be told. And if I'm going to do it, I'm going to give you guys the full experience, because the full experience of the joke is something that you have to live through it. You have to go through the whole joke to really get it. And that's all there is to it, man. It might take me 2 hours to tell the joke. It might take me 3 hours to tell the joke. The joke is very specific about certain things, and how long it takes me to get through certain parts of the joke is, up to my ability to recall and tell it. The ping pong ball joke, dude. The greatest joke ever. Nope. It's not a father who gives his son a ping pong table. Nope. You've never heard this joke, trust me. Better than Norm's moth joke? I mean, it's longer. I'll tell you that much. Better than Aristocrats? Longer than that. And doesn't rely so heavily on like scatological humor, I laughed my ass off the first time I heard it. I died laughing. The only time that I've heard it told. And the only time that I ever told it to somebody in its full capacity, the person I told it to laughed their fucking ass off. But you have to sit through it. Get used to that. You'll be seeing a lot of it. That's part of the joke. We'll do it one of these days. I don't know. I got to be in the mood, man. I got to be in the mood, because I'll have to wait until like this point in the stream. So I'll have to do a good hour-long stream to make sure I got a full audience, and then go like, all right, now it's time to do the ping pong ball joke. I mean, hold on. Let me check something. I think I have time to do it now. I think I have time to do it now. There's plenty of an audience here to do it, but I just don't know that you guys are willing to commit. I don't want people leaving. The people that stay have to stay. You have to stay. You can't give up on the joke. You have to stay. There once was a rich man, very wealthy man, who had one desire in life that he could not fulfill. He wanted a son. Many men, as you know, have this ambition. Many men, as you know, want to impart something onto another man that they envision will go forward in their footsteps and do better than they did. This man was not unlike many men, had the very same dream. The problem is that the woman that he loved and he had been trying for a son forever and forever, and it just hadn't happened for them. They'd gone to fertility specialists. The specialists had told them there was seemingly nothing wrong with either of them, but for whatever reason, a pregnancy just never seemed to happen for them. They tried and they tried and they tried and they tried, and suddenly they noticed that they were starting to grow old together, and all but gave up. And one day, the rich man was sitting in his high-rise office in New York City, doing his job, shuffling many important papers around his desk, taking many high-priority phone calls from all around the globe, brokering many high-dollar transactions. His phone rang. He picked it up, and it was his wife. She said, "Honey, it happened." And he knew immediately what she meant. She was pregnant. He was overjoyed. Oh, yes, his one life's ambition that he had not been able to attain was coming true. And he knew at that very moment that it would be a son. He knew, and so did his wife. You know, sometimes people know these things. And in this case, they knew. And sure enough, when the fetus was old enough to be tested, they did the amniotic test, and sure enough, they found out that it was indeed a male child growing in her belly. A son for the rich man. What he'd always wanted. And one chilly October morning, that son was born. A beautifully healthy 7-pound, 8-ounce baby boy, an heir. And the rich man even went so far as to give the child his own name. As the child grew up, it was almost immediately apparent that the child was bright, extraordinarily bright, even for a baby. He seemed to understand language at a very young age and gained a grasp and mastery of it way before most children do. He was an exceptional student before he ever went to school. But it was when the boy was finally sent to school that the problems began. It started in preschool. The rich man sent his son to the best preschool in the state. Now, I know what you might be thinking. Even though he was smart, he did horribly in school. No, he did wonderfully in school. In fact, he got nothing but great grades, great notes from his preschool teachers. They all said that he was the brightest child that they'd ever had the pleasure of schooling. That one day he was going to be Albert Einstein. He was a genius. So at the end of the preschool year, the man pulled his son aside and he said, "Son, you've done so well this year, your first year in preschool. Your first year in schooling was just such a resounding success, son. I want you to know something. You may not have a concept of this, but I'm very rich. I'm a very wealthy man, and that makes you, by extension, a very wealthy boy. And I will get you, son. I will get you anything that you want in this entire world as a present for doing so well in school." The kid didn't even have to think. He said, "I want a bag full of ping pong balls." His dad said, "What?" And his son just repeated himself. He said, "Dad, I want a bag full of ping pong balls." And his father says, "Are you sure? You can have anything you want." "Dad, I want a bag full of ping pong balls." Fine. So the rich man sends out one of his many servants to go to the store, get a nice sized shopping bag, and just fill it with ping pong balls. He delivers it to his son, and his son just beams with a smile on his face, and he runs into his room and has a great time. The rich man, very, very busy during the summers, didn't see much of his son. But soon it was time for that son to start the first grade. And yet again, He was an exemplary student from day one. Exemplary. His teachers glowing with effusive praise. The end of the school year, they didn't even want to give him A's. They wanted to create a new grade that was above the A. His father sat him down and said, "Boy, you've done it again. You're going to be something special when you grow up. You're taking school so seriously, and I'm so proud of you, boy." Boy said, "Thanks, Pop." He said, "Do you remember last year in preschool when I told you you could have anything in the world?" "Yeah, Dad." "Same thing this year, son. Anything that you want in the world, you can have." Now, the dad, of course, was expecting the son to pick something more appropriate for a first grader, some giant toy, but the kid just looked at him and said, "Dad, I want an even bigger bag full of ping pong balls." His dad said, "Son, do you really need more ping pong balls?" And the son looked confused by that question. He said, "But Dad, you said I could have anything I want." He said, "Son, you can. You can have anything that you want." And he says, "Then I want a giant bag full of ping pong balls." So sure enough, Dad delivered, sent out one of his servants, brought home a giant, garden-sized trash bag, just lipping full of ping pong balls. The kid saw it and was just overjoyed, dragged it into his room, and that was that. Second grade starts. And I know what you're thinking. You're probably thinking, "Oh, yeah, the kid did great. Oh, blah, 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 I get it." Well, you're right. He did wonderfully. The most amazing second grade student that you've ever fucking heard of in your life. Ever. I mean, if you talk about second grade, this kid did it at a fucking 90th grade level. His father couldn't have been more overjoyed. The teachers were, if they were effusive with praise in the first grade, in the second grade, I mean, it was almost like he had given birth to a god and not a man. The way these teachers talked about this, the smarts of this boy. He sat down with the boy, but there was some concern hanging over it this year because he thought, I want this boy to grow out of this ping pong ball phase. I want to see something reflected in his interests this year. I don't want to continue this, but I want the boy to be motivated. And then there was a part of him inside that just needed to know, will he ask for ping pong balls again? Well, sure enough. Boy, you can have anything that you want in the world for how well you did in school this year. Dad, he said, I want a garbage dumpster. His dad's heart leapt. A dumpster? At least it was something. He said, I'll get you a garbage dumpster right away. And he said, wait, Dad, wait. I want you to fill the whole dumpster full of ping pong balls. His dad was like, oh. Again, with the ping pong balls. So he said, all right, son, you've got it. Sent one of his manservants out to buy a giant garbage dumpster, filled it full of ping pong balls. When the son saw it, he was overjoyed. He had the manservant drag it into the workshop that his father had built for him. Closed the door behind him. Dad was perplexed. But time went on, and it was time for the son to start the third grade. And I know what you're thinking. He was a genius again. And you're thinking right.
He was the best third grader that ever third graded. What do you learn in third grade? Start picking up multiplication tables. Start playing around with the idea of division. It was like he was born knowing how to do these things. The end of the year, Dad sat down. Anything you want, boy. What do you want? He said, Dad, I've always wanted a swimming pool. His dad was overjoyed. He said, oh, thank goodness. Yes, son, you might be an amazing swimmer. You know, your grandfather was an amazing swimmer. And he said, Dad, I don't want to swim in it. I want you to fill it full of ping pong balls. His dad's mind reeled. What could he need these ping pong balls for? But he did it. Out behind the workshop that he'd built for his son, he had a grand Olympic-sized swimming pool dug and built, beautifully decorated and tiled, and then filled, heaping with ping pong balls. And I know what you think. Oh, Paul's just going to move through the grade levels. No, it was at this time that a tragedy happened in the rich man's life. His years-long marriage to the woman he loved fell apart. They grew apart. And the man was forced to live in a different place from his son. He was forced to give up custody of his son and half of all of the things that he owned to his now ex-wife. But his love for his son, that continued. Sorry, honey, I'm telling a very long joke. I'm telling the longest joke ever. His heart still beat with a love for his son. His son went to the 4th grade, and once again, flying colors. More than A's, more than A pluses, A++++ in every subject. He was made to learn. He was a sponge for knowledge. His father sat down and called him on the phone. He said, son, it's your dad. Oh, hi, Dad. I saw your report card. Your mother sent it to me. Yeah, Dad. Great job. You can have anything in the world that you want, boy. He said, Dad, I want the money to build in a gymnasium with an entire basketball court inside of it, Dad. A whole gymnasium so that I have it. And he said, great. Done. Tell your mother to write the check. Tell your mother to write me the invoice. He said, but wait, Dad. I want you to fill the gymnasium full of ping pong balls. Oh, what could he want with the ping pong balls? The father wanted to ask the boy, but he didn't want to shame the boy. He didn't want to alter the boy's trajectory. He was doing so well in school, but every year, anything that you want, and all the boy wants is more and more ping pong balls. Would this continue? The answer was yes. 5th grade rolls around, and the boy does wonderfully. What do you want, son? What do you want this year? Dad, I want one of those giant dump trucks. The big, gigantic ones that they use to mine big minerals and stuff. The ones where the wheels are taller than a man. He said, son, that's easy. But I have to ask you, is there anything else that you want with that dump truck? It's funny you should ask, Dad. I would like you to fill the back of that giant dump truck full of ping pong balls. At this point, the father gave up on ever knowing, gave up on ever asking, not wanting to alter the boy's meteoric trajectory. He just signed over the check and had it done and delivered. As far as he knows, the boy enjoyed it. 6th grade comes around. Big turning point for a lot of kids, 6th grade, by the way. Sometimes kids that had done well in school up until that point are challenged by 6th grade. The rich man was worried about this with his son. Worried that he was a candle that had burned too bright and too early. Worried that maybe his indulgence of the ping pong ball thing had stunted his son's interests in other things and that 6th grade would prove too challenging. But he was wrong. Son aced the 6th grade, A+, all across the board. Perfect attendance award, voted in his little 6th grade yearbook most likely to rule the world. Son, Dad said on his annual phone call, good job in the 6th grade, boy. And his son, whose voice was starting to deepen now, said, thanks, Dad. You could have anything you want, son, anything in the world. What do you want? The boy said, well, the swimming pool that you got for me back in 2nd grade. Dad said, yes? It's a bit small. I've been needing a little more room. Do you think you could build me, instead of a swimming pool, a pond? The dad was like, of course, son, anything that you want. But let me guess, you'd like the pond? And the son said, Dad, let me do it. I would like the pond full of ping pong balls. What could the father do but acquiesce? Prepare his son, fortify his son, reinforce his son's seemingly unstoppable train of wins in school, going into middle school, a challenging time once again for children. Social pressures start to take place in middle school, you know. Hormones and dating start to become a thing for some kids. They start going around, all that stuff starts happening. Can really take your eye off the prize as a student. But not the rich man's son. The rich man's son rose to the challenge. And in addition to getting A+ in everything, he won the state science fair that year as well. His father was overjoyed. Father was overjoyed. Son, it's your father. Good job in school this year. Thanks, Dad. You can have anything you want, boy. Anything that you want. Son said, you know those giant grain silos, Dad? Hold tons and tons and tons and tons and tons of grain. Dad said, yes. Boy said, I want 10 of those. And I want you to fill them all full of ping pong balls. Father just wrote the check. At this point, he didn't care. He'd gotten to the point in his son's education where he was so overjoyed that he told himself, I'm not going to let the question eat my mind alive. I'm not going to sit and wonder why he needs these ping pong balls. I will not let it rule my life. I'm just going to give up, get him whatever he wants. 8th grade comes around. The unlikely and implausible string of victories continues until the final semester. This is where the story takes a semi-dark turn, folks. In his final semester, his dad received a note from his son's teacher. He had gone from straight A's to straight C's over the course of 1/2 of the final semester. C's? C's? His son had never gotten a C in his life. The father's heart almost stopped. It had happened. He'd met a girl, gotten involved in some romantic fling, some ill-advised adolescent fantasy had taken him from his schoolwork. The dad angrily dialed the phone. I'm going to give this boy a piece of my mind. Boy answers, hello? It's your father. Your report card is all C's. He says, I know, Dad, I know. What is it, boy? Drugs? A girl? Another boy? What is it? Just out with it, boy. And he says, Dad, one of the grain silos that you built me last year. I said, the grain silos from last year? He said, just hear me out, Dad. I didn't want to get anybody in trouble, but the 10th one was only 3/4 full. His dad said, what? All 10 silos, Dad, were supposed to be full of ping pong balls. And the 10th silo was only 3/4 full of ping pong balls. And it's been just bothering me all year. And his dad said, son, why didn't you tell me about this immediately? Why did you allow this to take you away from your schoolwork? I'll immediately have that 10th silo filled with ping pong balls. And then the boy said, then, Father, I will immediately have straight A's again. And sure enough, the next week, he had done so much extra credit work, written so many extra essays that once again, he had all A's in every class, and he graduated at the top of his class yet again, the best student in all of his junior high. His father called him up and said, son, thank you for being a man of your word. And he said, man, Pops? That's right, son. You're going into high school. You're a young man now. And you've conducted yourself as one. You gave me your word. I topped off the ping pong balls. And you got straight A's. So, son, once again, I tell you, with apologies for the mistake that happened last year, trust me, the manservant whose job it was to fill the 10th silo has been harshly dealt with. What do you want, son? Anything in the world. The boy didn't even have to think. He said, Dad, you know those underground bunkers that the military has? Yes, son. Filled with all kinds of equipment for if the world ends. Like all kinds of gizmos, dials, and gadgets and radars. Yes, son. I want you to build me the biggest one of those that anybody ever had. And I want you to fill it full of ping pong balls. His dad said, you got it, boy. It's done. And he builds his son this vast underground complex filled to the brim with radar and gizmos. And then he tells his workmen, fill it full of ping pong balls. Absolutely full. And they say, what? But you've just built the most amazing underground military complex that's ever existed. You want us to fill it? And the dad said, don't question me. I pay you to follow orders. You fill that thing full of ping pong balls. And they did. The son was happy. He started his freshman year, flying colors, valedictorian of his freshman class. And at the speech, he said, life is but a game of ping pong, and all the men and women merely players. And his dad stood up and clapped his hands raw at the graduation, and he wept. After the graduation, he pulled his son aside and he said, boy, you know the deal by now. Anything that you want. Kid said, I do know the deal, Dad. I want you to buy this school. Buy the school. His mind raced with the possibilities. Was his son planning on creating a new academy, a place where he could teach his brilliance to other people? Son, it's done. And he said, but Dad, wait. I want every structure on the grounds of this school. The stadium, the gymnasium, and every classroom filled full of ping pong balls. Once again, The father wrote the check, but that nagging feeling had creeped back into his head. He'd been able to set it aside for years now. What were the ping pong balls for? Why? Why? Now that question burned inside of his mind again. An entire school filled with ping pong balls? He began to worry about his son's sanity. He had heard, of course, that madness and genius are often strange bedfellows, and he was wondering that maybe his son was some kind of savant, some kind of person that could easily solve the world's problems, but that would be obsessed instead with ping pong balls. So when his son started his sophomore year, the father demanded that his son start attending regular therapy to make sure that his son was sound psychologically. He got a call one day from that boy's therapist towards the end of the school year, and of course, the son did well. More than well. A+ in every category. Got a call from the boy's therapist at the end of the year, just before the boy graduated from his sophomore year in high school. The therapist said, "I've called you, sir, to tell you that I quit." The man was like, "Oh no, my son is insane." The man said, "Insane? Are you kidding me? He's the most sane and rational person that I've ever dealt with. In fact, dealing with him this last year has made me realize that it is I that am insane. Who am I to counsel someone when a man like your son exists on this planet? My entire life is in tatters. I can no longer be a psychiatrist. Your son is the most sane and rational person on this planet. Treasure him. Treasure him." And then he hung up the phone. The man was aghast. The ping pong balls bouncing in his brain. Oceans of ping pong balls, and for what? The end of the year, he told his son, "Your sophomore year was wonderful, son. You did well in therapy. What do you want? Anything in the world, boy, you name it." He said, "Dad, I want the Empire State Building." His father said, "And let me guess." "That's right, Dad. I want you to knock all the floors out of it until it's a hollow shell. Leave it standing there in downtown New York City. And I want you to fill it. Fill it full of ping pong balls." What could his father do but acquiesce? It would collapse, says you, but it didn't. Shows what you know. His son's junior year was marked with a slew of athletic achievements. The boy had a growth spurt between his sophomore and junior year and filled out to be quite a large and strapping young man. He was the quarterback of the baseball team. He was the pitcher of the football team. He was the head volleyballer. He was the track and field star. And in addition to all of that, he got straight A+. The end of the year, his father called his son at one of the many parties that his son was now attending, him being the most popular boy in school. "Son, you've done well again. Very proud of you, both academically and extracurricularly." How do you say that word?
Curricularly.
Curricularly, extracurricularly, you're doing well. Curricula, yeah. "You're doing far beyond my expectations, boy. So just out with it. What is it that you want?" "Father, I want a space station." Dun, 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 dun. A space station? Boy, that might tax even my unlimited supply of money. "Father, you said I could have anything." "Yes, boy, a space station. But that space station had better serve a purpose other than being a storage place for..." And the son said, "Father, the space station must be filled full of ping pong balls. Oh, son, you are asking me to bankrupt my company. We will be ruined. Father, the space station must be full of ping pong balls. So the father did the unthinkable, leveraged every asset in his company, over-leveraged his company to an insane degree. One straw would break the camel's back. He called Elon Musk on his personal line and said, Elon, I need a deal on a space station. And because he and Elon went way back, Elon cut him a deal, and he was just able to hold on to his company and thus his wealth, but almost bankrupted himself building his son, the grandest space station in the world, and then filling it with ping pong balls. Oh! The father spent the next year rather unconcerned with his son's doing. He'd become convinced that perhaps his son was looking to destroy him. Perhaps his son had designs on making the company insolvent and then making a power play. So he spent his time rebuilding the company. But he hit a snag halfway through the year. And it looked as if the banks would finally get the blood that they'd been howling for. Too many mortgages, too much leverage, the crushing weight of it all. He sat there with his head in his hands in his empty, almost fully liquidated building. Seconds before he signed the bankruptcy agreement that would break up his company, the door to his office exploded open, and a familiar voice said, "Wait, Dad!" He dropped the pen and he looked up, and sure enough, there it was, his son, now a junior in high school. He said, "Dad, you don't have to do this." He said, "Son, I have no choice. The ping pong ball space station, the tin silos, the pool that turned into a pond. I mean, do you think I'm made of money? What did you expect, son? I told you that this company would be ruined by your silly dreams of space stations and endless ping pong balls. And now the time has come." He said, "Father, I want you to take a look at the news. Turn it on to financial news." His dad clicked on the TV, the last piece of technology left in the building. And what he saw almost stopped his heart. Every news agency was covering the meteoric rise in his company's stock. The company was saved. He looked up at his son with tears in his eyes and he says, How? And his young son looked at him with a steely, cold demeanor and said, "Because you're my father." Turned on his heel and he left. The next day, his father's building was once again filled with the hustle and bustle of technology. His company was better than ever. He was richer than ever. Now the most wealthy man in the world. What had his son done? At the end of the day, did it matter? Any questions that he had about his son's insanity, any questions that he had about anything that his son told him to do went out the window that day. Whatever it was that his son was doing, he was convinced it would change the face of the world. You know how the story goes for the last of the son's years in high school. His senior year was a triumph. Every college in the world of note gave him open admission at the end of that year. He had somehow achieved a 2000.0 grade point average. Something that educators around the world thought impossible. A 2000.0? Poppycock. But when they read his transcripts, they saw it was true. He had indeed earned a 2000.0 grade point average. And the son decided, the first person ever to decide this, that he would attend every university simultaneously. He would travel all over the world and learn at each of these places, gaining their knowledge as he went. And his father called him at the end of the senior year, knowing all of this, once again telling him, "Son, what is it that you want? What is it that you need this year for your senior year? Anything." Son said, "Father, I want you to hollow out the moon." Dun, 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 dun. His father said, "Hollow out the moon?" "Yes, Father. Use that new capital that your business has generated and hollow the moon and fill it full of ping pong balls." So his father began what, to this day, is the biggest project that humanity has ever undertaken. Almost every man and woman of able body on the planet was employed by the rich man, sent to the moon, and given the arduous task of hollowing it. And by the end of the son's first year in college, the moon was indeed hollow, and the moon was indeed filled to the brim with ping pong balls. But something had happened. If you remember at the beginning of this story, the man and his now ex-wife were quite old when they were able to conceive of this miracle child. And the man had gotten too weary to run his business anymore, had passed that business over to the board, had gone into retirement, and unfortunately, sadly, his health began to fail. The years rolled by, and the son stopped asking for ping pong balls. He was now in college, and in fact, calling him in college would kind of give the incorrect idea of what the son was doing. He was actually teaching the professors at this point. He had truly attained autonomy, no longer needed his father's hand, and his father began to wither away from old age, alone, somewhat bitter, his mind filled with questions, filled with ping pong balls, bouncing to and fro, great vats of them, great swimming pools of them, oceans of ping pong balls washing up on the shore. What could it mean? What could it mean? And his health got worse and worse, and his mind began to get duller and duller, and he withered there in his chair as the years flipped by on the calendar. Floop, floop, floop. Oh, ping pong balls. Why? Oh. And then one day, for the first time in seemingly years, the old rich man's phone rang. He picked it up, almost out of instinct, and put it to his ear. He recognized the voice immediately. "Father, it's time. Meet me tomorrow morning at the Grand Canyon. It's all come to fruition now." And then the line went dead. The withered old man, barely able to move, touched his intercom button and said, "Cordell." His manservant's name was Cordell. "Cordell, get my helicopter ready. I'll be taken to the airstrip at once." And Cordell said, "But sir, you're far too frail to travel." "Cordell, Do I pay you to defy me, or do I pay you to do as I say? Prepare the helicopter. I'm going to the airstrip at once. Tomorrow morning, I'll be at the Grand Canyon. And with that, Cordell prepared the helicopter. The man took off, boarded his private jet for the long flight to Arizona, landed before the sun, and at sunup was standing on the edge, with the last of his strength, leaning heavily on his walker, standing on the edge of the beautiful Grand Canyon, breathing that wonderful early air before the sun comes up. You know that air, that bracing air. And then the sun peaked over the horizon. And as soon as it did, he became aware of a vibration in the ground. Very subtle. He could feel it in his walker. And then soon he could hear a noise like the great buzzing of a billion bees just off in the distance. He saw smoke or dust rising from the horizon. So he said, "Cordell, my binoculars." Cordell handed him his binoculars, and with shaking, withered old claws, he pulled the binoculars up and looked. And there he saw his son, standing atop the giant dump truck that he had bought him for second grade. You remember the giant dump truck? His son was standing atop it, radiant in the early morning sun, and behind him what seemed to be an endless line of trucks. The man watched through his binoculars as this implausible train of humanity continued towards him. And he could see, as they got closer, that indeed each one of these trucks was filled to the brim with ping pong balls. The trucks got closer and closer until the lead truck that his son was riding atop stopped just inches from the old man's face with a hiss of pneumatic brakes. Just tss. The old man looked up and saw his son. And he said, "Son." And the son looked down at his father, beaming with pride, beaming. And he said, "Father, it's time." And the man said, "Time for what?"